Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable, the state's foster care system is the subject of a lawsuit, and a distracted driving bill advances in the legislature. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Jeremy Duda of the Arizona Capital Times, Mike Sunnix of the Phoenix Business Journal, and Ben Giles of the Arizona Capital Times. The state is the target of a lawsuit over poor foster care conditions. Who filed the suit? What's going on here, Jeremy?
The suit was filed by the Arizona Center for Law and the Public Interest advocacy group that takes on a lot of fights like these. It's on behalf of 10 foster children. What the suit alleges is that, while Arizona has spent all this time in the last couple of years focusing on CPS and, abuse and that kind of thing and fixing that broken system, what is ignored is this foster system where, the number of kids in the system has basically doubled in the last decade. They allege that these kids, the system is not very quick to investigate abuse and neglect allegations against them, that they split up families and siblings have no contact with each other for years. They're not really providing them with adequate medical and mental health treatment. And they found, and of course this is on behalf of 10 kids, and they found some examples from kids who had some pretty terrible experiences in the system. One kid has been in like 8 schools in less than a year. Kids have been moved around a dozen times in a couple of years. So some pretty bad situations. They want the state to remedy the situation.
And I think the directors of DHS and DCS and the new CPS, they're named in this suit. Was this a surprise?
Well, I think some of the details in the lawsuit were a surprise. Kids having to sleep in offices and just some of the horror stories. It mirrors CPS in a lot of ways, just inefficiency, poor care, poor service, poor customer service to some of the most vulnerable. We don't always spend a lot of money on our social welfare programs here. So, you look at funding and things like that. But some of the specifics of it kind of rise up to where, we've been talking about CPS for the past couple of years. This has kind of not been in the spotlight, and this kind of brings it to light.
Yeah, Ben, I think the wording here was that the state is showing deliberate indifference that shocks the conscience. Pretty serious stuff there.
And I think that speaks to the timing of it. The focus has so much in the last year with the transition from Child Protective Services to this new Department of Child Safety. The focus has been on child welfare and maybe less focused on the foster system. But this didn't really surprise anyone at the Capitol. There are lawmakers who have tried to address some of these issues. The fact that oftentimes the complaint is DCS is too quick to remove a child from a home and put them potentially in the foster care system, that there is just a gut reaction to sever family ties maybe too soon.
Jeremy, having done this long enough to remember, that argument goes back and forth constantly. You're taking them out too quickly, you're not taking them out quickly enough.
Yeah, sure. It all kind of depends on what horror story has been in the news. Like, you don't take them out quickly enough and you end up with, abused or unfortunately even dead children, and then that triggers the notion of we need to get them out and put them into care. That goes on long enough, and you end up with kids who maybe shouldn't have been taken from their parents, and then you get the backlash going the other way.
As far as the reaction to this, again, some folks at the Capitol, has been said, not surprised, but the general reaction, are they going to address this, or is this another one, let's sit back and watch what the courts do?
I don't know yet. CPS, we had the critical mass with all the ignored phone calls. That really resonated with everybody. Even the most kind of fiscally conservative folks, seem to be on board with trying to fix that situation. The Governor Brewer, pushed that through. What happens on this? Because we have these things pop up with foster care, with how the seriously mentally ill, the type of services they get under some of the contracts. Obviously CPS. Sometimes it takes a critical mass or a galvanizing event. Maybe something will come out of the lawsuit. I don't know if the lawsuit itself will push things, but it may push things forward towards something like that, where say, hey, wait, this is really bad. They, like CPS, they ignored all these calls. It finally resonated with people. So maybe this will move us down the pathway.
And I think the thing to remember is these problems were years in the making. We do have in Arizona a new agency that is supposed to be addressing these issues, and I think an argument could be made that now that they've come up, this might be the first scandal, if you will, of the new department, and they are going to need to to address this, but they're new. They're still trying to work out kinks in the system, and maybe this is just going to take a little time as they are essentially still getting their feet wet.
And to be fair, other states have these problems too with these types of agencies, with foster care, same types of things. I think it's highlighted more because we spend so little on these types of agencies and these types of programs.
But I've also seen rankings where Arizona's foster care system does not stand up well nationwide.
No, we have obviously some pretty serious problems, as multiple lawsuits and rounds of legislation will attest. I don't see this getting addressed anytime soon, probably. I mean, of course, this lawsuit was just filed. It's got to wend its way through the court system. We don't really have the money to deal with this issue right now, but you let it work through. Maybe there's mediation at some point. Maybe they work out some kind of deal. But as with pretty much any other lawsuit from the Center for Law and the Public Interest, this is going to come down to money, and money that people at the Capitol right now are not going to want to spend.
You need a smoking gun, like the CPS thing with the ignored tip calls. You need a smoking gun that gets the media involved, that really catches the public's attention. A lawsuit in itself may not do that.
Ben, we got a bill that bans texting while driving. Advances out of the Senate committee, pushed by Senator Steve Farley. He is a Democrat. Does that mean this thing is DOA?
Well, I think in this case it's less because a Democrat is sponsoring the bill and more because of the fact that it is a texting ban. He's been trying to get this bill through the legislature for about 7 years now. Last year was one of his most successful attempts. The bill has been assigned to 3 committees 2 years in a row now. He got it out of all 3 committees. He got it to the Senate floor, and then it died because Senate President Andy Biggs is not a fan. The argument is Biggs will say that there are already statutes in place that allow the police, that allow people to be prosecuted for distracted driving. This is just a new unnecessary regulation. Now, Farley's got the bill through 1 committee so far. He's got 2 more to go, and then that big hurdle, getting past Andy Biggs on the floor.
Yeah, and remember, for the past 5 or 6 years or so, it hasn't just been Steve Farley trying to push. They had former Senator Al Melvin, a Republican, trying to get this too. And if a Republican couldn't get this through a Republican legislature, a Democrat's chances are, I'd say, substantially less.
I would say getting it out of that 1 committee you talked about, even doing that, you had to have a couple of caveats in there, including the idea that you're not banned looking at your text, you just can't text.
Yeah, you don't want everybody giving texts. The city of Phoenix has had something on its books for a while. I don't know how many people, I think it's maybe 0 that they've actually cited for this. It doesn't happen very often. In California, they have cited people for that. The argument from the safety advocates, AAA types, is you have a specific law against texting. People don't know what distracted driving means. It's a vague term. If you have a specific law, people might not do it. And there's a lot of accidents that happen. What this needs is an advocate, a Republican advocate, who can kind of personalize this for folks and kind of push this through. It hasn't had that.
This does have some shared Republican support. There are Republican co-sponsors on this bill. But one of the things that Farley is trying differently this year is trying to get an advocate, is trying to tug on people's heartstrings. He brought the family of a fallen law enforcement officer who was on the side of the road and actually got run over by a driver who was watching porn on their cell phone. And introduced that man's family on the floor of the Senate and had them testify in the Transportation Committee this week. So this is a new tactic to try and get people to understand, and that made it a little interesting to see that they actually stripped out the part of the language where now you can actually look at something on your cell phone, which is exactly the problem that wound up.
Will that caveat, if you will, the fact that you can read, you just can't text, was that going to make any difference here?
It may make some difference. I believe Senator Kavanaugh made a comment about how without that it wasn't going to move forward. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to move forward with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right. We got Tesla. It's a business story here for the Business Journal. Tesla wants to sell directly to customers, and it sounds like they're kind of getting closer. First of all, why can't Tesla open a dealership like anyone else? And secondly, why can't GM and Ford sell directly to customers like Tesla wants to do?
Well, the real answer is the car dealers have a lot of power in Arizona and a lot of other states. There's rules in various states, and we're not the only one, that you have to buy a car through a dealership. We don't buy computers. We can buy stuff through wherever we want. This is one of the few industries where you have a middleman, the dealership, and there's rules against that direct selling in Arizona and other states. Tesla, which is the electric car maker, wants to do. They don't want to have a dealership. They want to sell directly. So they have a service center in Scottsdale at the mall there and other places. They want people to be able to go in there and buy directly. Now you have to kind of order it online and go around this. This came up last year when Tesla was looking at us for this big battery factory that landed in Reno, and Senator Biggs, and it died in the Senate last year. Governor Brewer really didn't push for it. The idea is maybe Doug Ducey, as the governor, pushes for this more. He's a free enterprise guy. This is the people that advocate for this say, why can't I just go buy a car from the manufacturer directly? The catch is, car dealers have a lot of sway, a lot of money invested in Arizona politics.
In Arizona politics, specifically on the Republican side, I believe Click-Down in Tucson is quite the donor, is he not?
That he is, and a big supporter of Governor Ducey as well. But as Mike mentioned, Governor Ducey also has kind of this worldview of supporting innovative entrepreneurial businesses, as you put it, when he recently gave the green light to Uber and Lyft. And if Andy Biggs kind of halted this thing last year, but if Governor Ducey were to get behind this, that might make some difference. If this kind of fits into that kind of worldview of what he wants Arizona to be, this economic development, of course, is basically his top priority, and this could help fit into that notion.
Does Ford, GM, Toyota, are they really hurt all that much if Tesla decides to sell direct? I know they have to. I think the legislation says you have to open a service center in the state. I mean, there is a little bit of a catch there, but are they going to be hurt all that much?
I guess it's just a matter of if Ford and GM and these dealerships think that they are going to lose business because Tesla's in town. But their argument more so is that the Tesla model, the direct-to-consumer model, would sort of weaken the system that is in place where there are dealerships and you do have to sell your cars through dealerships. And that is overall what their main argument is, that we have this system in place, it's worked for so long, why would you want to possibly ruin that?
I'm hearing echoes of the craft beer argument as well.
Kinda,
We've always done it this way. Why does one company want to change it?
Yeah, I mean, you would think the free enterprise Republicans down at the Capitol would be all for this. There's a business guy, Elon Musk, that wants to come in and sell directly to consumers, and consumers can choose whether they want to buy it or not. Tesla's a very small part of the market. It's very small, and so it's interesting that they're siding with the car dealers who are kind of blocking this commerce.
Well, we saw at least one Republican using the free market argument against them too, saying, well, this business is heavily subsidized. They get a lot of incentives and handouts from the government. So once they can stand on their own, come back and let's talk. But for now, we're going to keep things the way they are.
It's interesting somebody makes that argument when the manufacturers that they're representing, whether they're in the Rust Belt or down south, are probably receiving as many subsidies as any industry out there.
Sure, the counter argument is everyone's getting subsidies. People, we don't realize that it's not just
Hey, Ben, the Super Bowl is now long gone, and there were rumors out there that the more enthusiastic Bills would be waiting until after folks left town so that we wouldn't, look interesting,
So
more
it wouldn't
interesting.
look bad on the Daily Show?
Well, that's one way to put it. Yes, Did that come to pass, or is that just a lot of hoo-ha?
It seemed like hoo-ha at this point. We really haven't seen something that rises to the level of an SB 1062 like last year or an SB 1070. For the most part, there are controversial bills, but they're issues we've seen before that are run routinely every year, but nothing so grand in its scale and its scope that it would cause this uproar that everyone was so afraid of. So, and I think leadership at the Capitol is pretty happy about that. They commented to me on the floor of the Senate that, hey, did you see all those crazy bills that got dropped on Monday? In a kind of sarcastic tone, because it wasn't so.
There wasn't any birther bill. I think there's a little more parenting going on from the governor's office of the legislature than there was in Brewer's last couple years. So I think there was some of that. We did have their Ohio billboard in Times Square. But yeah, there was no Daily Show stories on us. There was nobody coming out with anything too crazy during this. But give them time. They have plenty of time to introduce a few more. So.
How much parenting do you think from the governor's office on this?
Not a legislative leadership says none. They said, we haven't heard from them. They haven't told us to do this. We haven't told our members not to do this. Although we did ask Governor Ducey about that in the week leading up to the Super Bowl. We said, hey, did you ask lawmakers to hold off on controversial bills until after the Super Bowl? And his only response was, well, we asked lawmakers to have a productive session. That's what we're doing.
Well, I do think that they're a little hesitant after 1062. I think that had a lasting impact. That footage from CNN of them running away from CNN reporters and Al Melvin's appearance, I think they're a little hesitant to get back in the national spotlight.
Well, and if you ask Democrats at the Capitol, they'll tell you it's not over yet. There's these things called strikers at the Capitol. There's a lot of tech corrections out there that are just ready to have a bill attached to them. And that can happen, just about any time from now until sine die. So we'll wait and see. Maybe something will come up.
All right, Jeremy, there's a push to scale back the open meeting law, and not just the idea of caucus, meetings held in secret or behind closed doors, which apparently everyone does. But now we're talking basically the open meeting law in and of itself. What's happening here?
Well, these laws govern, not just at the state, but city councils, county board of supervisors, everyone. And what Senator Sylvia Allen wants to do is basically change it so that city council members, other elected officials can deliberate and debate and talk in private, outside of the public view. And the only thing that they have to actually do in a public meeting is if they're taking an actual vote on something, they're taking an actual concrete action. Now, the problem is that a lot of these these deliberations and discussions, that's where members of the press and members of the public get so much of their information about these things. And sometimes that doesn't always work to the benefit of the elected officials themselves, because have to air all their concerns, talk about all the issues. And Sylvia Allen says that, well, these people feel a little freer to discuss the problems and discuss how they feel if they're not in the public eye.
Yeah, and Allen and other Republicans at the Capitol have argued this is nothing nefarious. This is trying to address an issue that is in fact unique to some of these smaller county boards of supervisors. Sylvia Allen served on the Navajo County Board. There are 5 people on that board, so a quorum is 3. That makes it a little more difficult if, say 3 people happen to show up at the coffee maker at the same time. Does that constitute a public meeting, they argue? That's the conundrum they have. The problem with this bill is it is broadly written to the point where it would apply to any government body that's holding a meeting. It would apply to the legislature, it would apply to those little groups, and it's written in such a way that it actually takes out language in the public meeting law that specifies that the deliberation, the debate about the proposals, that needs to be public. It says that legal action taken by a board or an agency is the only thing that would be public, and then it defines legal action as taking a vote.
Yeah.
So you could have a situation where the legislature has one private meeting, 30 people in the Senate, 60 people in the House, to heartily debate in private a bill, and then come back minutes later and vote on it, and no one will know what anyone said.
And that's what critics are saying. It basically hides the deliberative process.
Yeah, and that's the gist of it. It's going to hide the private meetings from the press, from watchdog groups. And sometimes having those open meetings saves these lawmakers from themselves. It highlights a bill, it highlights a harebrained idea, and it comes out and it gets killed. And so it's protecting themselves from some of their own weird ideas that they come out with sometimes. But you think about how Glendale met all the times private over the hockey team, how the budget is done. There's plenty of private meetings going on now. There's plenty of ways to get around these things. There's private emails that people use. There's a lot of ways to get around these things that we have already. This would really weaken watchdogs, and it would weaken the media and the public's ability to see what folks are doing, to see the sausage making alive, which is part of our kind of representative democracy.
So the question is, if this passes, does the governor sign it? And does he sign it now that we learned that the visitor logs up there on the 9th floor, the visitor logs for the governor, they decided people don't need to know who's been stopping by.
Yeah, and this would be a far cry, of course, from a bunch of city council members, crafting legislation in private and then voting on it in 2 seconds, then getting out of there without answering any questions. But it is somewhat of a reduction in transparency up on the 9th floor, at least since Jane Hull's administration. The governor's office keeps a visitor log up there on the 8th floor, and you don't actually have to sign in. I didn't a lot of the time, but a lot of people do, and you can see cabinet heads, lawmakers, lobbyists especially is what we're looking for, and it's a public record. I used to put in a public records request, once a month, once every 2 months, go get a few weeks worth of logs, look to see if anything interesting is in there, but those are gone now. That was when Ducey came in, they got rid of those and decided that they're going to streamline the office, make it more efficient, as they put it, and they said it's not a big deal because these are incomplete anyway and therefore inaccurate.
Well, is that a valid point? If they're not complete, then what good are they anyway?
Well, not everyone signs in, you don't have to, but a lot of people do, and oftentimes that's enough to let you know. People who know they don't have to sign in are still signing in on this. Like if I printed out a visitor log and put it up there on the desk in the 8th floor, some people would sign it just because it's there.
Yeah.
But Republicans need to remember the shoe's on the other foot sometimes. They didn't like how the Redistricting Commission, how they met sometimes, and they were concerned about open meetings laws there. You see Republicans at the national level want to know which Muslim leaders Barack Obama met with recently. They want those things. So sometimes you're in the minority. You're not always going to be in the majority, or you don't like who's running things. You want that transparency there. So when you're in the majority, it's easy to back these things, but that doesn't always stay the same.
And it wouldn't surprise me to see this bill amended before, if it even does reach Governor Ducey's desk. If the concern really is for these smaller boards, these 3 or 5 person boards, and the intent is not to apply to something as big as the legislature, maybe there's an amendment to be had. Maybe Sylvia Allen is amenable to something that would just specifically address the smaller groups.
Carve something out there as opposed
Sure.
to the full thing. Apple, we've talked about this week. We had some economists on. We've had former Mesa Council people on. Scott Summers, Elliot Pollack were on last night talking about this. We got the Global Command Center out there in Mesa. It's a storage. It's basically a cloud storage facility. And what was 700 jobs for the glass factory that was supposed to go out there, we're down to 150 here. But some economists are saying take it because it's sitting empty otherwise. Good thing for Arizona. I mean, are people celebrating this?
Certainly over at the Capitol, they're celebrating. This was a big announcement. Obviously, it's Apple. It's arguably the most, by some measures, the most profitable country in the world. So it's a big deal. And the last factory you mentioned that was 700 jobs. People called that the Apple deal, but it was really just a subcontractor. This is Apple itself. So people are pretty thrilled about that. They're going to be investing $2 billion, 150 permanent jobs, 300 to 500 temporary ones, and you get the cachet of having this major international global command center or international command center in your backyard.
It's a data center, and we're a big data center hub. There's a lot of companies that have server farms here that have kind of the guts of the internet and the technology sector here. But yeah, it's a lot less jobs, and we're rolling out the incentives and the tax breaks for them. We ran to pass these tax breaks last year for this GT Advanced plant, which Apple basically funded the company. They went belly up. All those folks lost their jobs. So now we're taking those tax breaks and carving them out for the command center and to make sure that they get that. So it's Apple brings a lot of cachet. We like that, but it's not a lot of jobs. And it's not the manufacturing jobs that we've kind of been looking for.
Exactly.
And that's one of the really fun parts about this, those incentives that needed to be tweaked after the quote unquote Apple bill was passed last year, to actually allow those incentives to apply to Apple and not the manufacturer that they were supposed to apply to. Senate President Andy Biggs has to run a bill that actually restructures and expands what those incentives can apply to, which is fascinating because Andy Biggs was one of 3 people to vote against the Apple bill last year.
Yeah, the first time that went before the floor, he was actually the only person to vote against it. And the amended version got 2 other people joining him, but he is actually the sponsor of this. And Doug Ducey, who at times last year campaigned against targeted incentives, is supporting this as well, as is House Speaker Gowan, who I'm told is going to introduce a nearly identical version in the House. And you've got a lot of the more ardent free market advocates over in the legislature. They're lining up behind this too. People who would normally be very hesitant to vote for this. And I think probably the fact that Andy Biggs, who has such solid credentials on this issue, is supporting it, that possibly that's giving people some cover. If it were Bob Worsley running this bill, probably not going to get the same level of support from your most conservative members.
And these actions are very much picking a winner and picking losers. They're picking Apple as a winner. They created a foreign trade zone. They pay 5% property tax on this instead of 18%. Mm-hmm. They could get data center tax breaks because it's a data center. They could get job training stuff. There's still some money in there. They could get some of that for them. So they are very much picking a winner in terms of Apple because it's the biggest tech company in the world.
Yes, another interesting thing about this bill that Senate President Biggs is running is this doesn't just expand it so the Apple facility will qualify for this. This makes it a lot easier to qualify for this tax credit. The old bill that was passed last year, you needed to invest $300 million in renewable energy production. That under this would be $100 million. And under last year's bill, it was a $1 million tax credit for 5 years. Now it's a $5 million tax credit.
Yes.
And but the free market supporters over there, the people who are kind of implausibly lining up behind this, there's a couple of things that they'll cite as good reasons. One, that this isn't a new program, they say, and just tweaking an existing program. Plus, the one thing that seems the most important to a lot of them is that unlike this factory from the bill last year, this isn't getting any money from the Commerce Authority's deal closing fund. The GT factory is supposed to get $10 million from the Arizona Competes fund. Right. Fortunately, they did not give that out before the factory went under, but this factory won't get any of that money.
The problem is how do you say no to Apple? It's like how do you say no to the NFL? We give a lot of tax breaks, exemptions for the Super Bowl. How do you say no to these types of breaks?
You know how you say no? Yes. That's how you say no. Monday on Arizona Horizon, we'll discuss the role of after-school activities in student success, and we'll look at how engineers are using robotics technology in physical therapy. That's Monday, 5:30 and 10 on Arizona Horizon. Tuesday, the state's largest science and technology festival is set to launch. Wednesday, an update on the Affordable Care Act in Arizona. Thursday, former Governor Ernest McFarland gets a new memorial in time for Statehood Day. And Friday, it's another edition of the Journalists Roundtable. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.